Shipwreck Jones here. We have a new live event starting on December 5th, so I wanted to put together a short video with the skinny on it. For those new to the game, a live event is simply a temporary PvE opportunity allowing you to earn rare rewards. Alright, this event is pretty easy and it's definitely doable by new players and alpha clones alike. So first up, let's take a look at a ship fitting. So I know new players and alpha clones will have limited skills in ship selection, so I went with the Kiting T1 destroyer. Here I used a catalyst, however most, if not all of the T1 destroyers should work just as well, assuming of course that they're fit with long-range weaponry. For example, fit beam lasers to the Marco Ursher, railguns to the Caldari Cormorant, and artillery to the Thrasher. Alright, so a couple things about this fit. First of all, it is a glass cannon. It does not have a lot of EHP. However, as long as you keep range and don't make any mistakes, you should actually have 0 incoming damage. The second thing is that this fit is pretty tight on CPU. Using metal level guns will free up CPU. Past that, if you still don't have enough fitting room, you have a couple options. If you're just a few CPU short, you can look at using like a +1 or +2 fitting implant, which are pretty cheap. You can also downgrade like the mid-slot modules like the Afterburner or the tracking computer to metal level or Tech 1 variants. And you can even downgrade the damage control. In fact, the damage control probably isn't necessary at all. I just threw it on there to give you a little bit of a buffer just in case shit starts to go south. Anyway, I have a full rack of T2 railguns with spike loaded in the highs. If you can't use T2 guns, metal level guns loaded with like iron charge will still give you the range. However, your DPS will take a hit and it will take you longer to run the sights. In the mids, we have an afterburner for range control and a tracking computer loaded with an optimal range script to help boost our optimal range. In the lows, we have the aforementioned damage control unit as well as 2 magnetic field stabilizers to help beef up our DPS. And then finally in the rig slots, we have a small ionic field projector which increases our targeting range so we can actually target out as far as we can hit. A small hybrid locus coordinator also increases our optimal. And then finally the processor overclocking rig again to help give us more CPU. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure your overview is set up correctly. So select whatever tab you're going to be using, travel tab, PvE tab, whatever, and then click on Open Overview Settings. Make sure you're on the Tab, Presets tab, and the Types sub-tab. Then under the Celestial section, you want to make sure Beacon is selected. And under NPC, you want to make sure Pirate NPC is also selected. It's also a good idea to set the distance for your Keep at Range command. I like to set mine for a little bit less than my optimal range. So here I set it for 45 kilometers. Now we're finally ready to rock and roll. I warp to the site at 10 kilometers. And do note that event sites spawn randomly throughout space. Just fly around until you see a Rogue Swarm Nest beacon on your overview. Once on site, I turn on my active modules, pull range, and start popping stuff. Multiple waves will spawn, and there can be a lot of stuff on grid, but as long as you keep range, none of it will pose any sort of threat to you. Oh, and do note, I did get in close with my thorax when I ran this site again, and I did not observe any sort of E-war of any kind. No warp disruptors or webs or scrams or anything like that. So even if things do go bad for some reason, you'll still have no problem extracting. You can go repair and then come back and finish up the site. Alright, I won't let the rest of this video play out so y'all can see the rest of the site, but I'll speed up the footage. And when it's done, we'll talk about the rewards. Finally, we have the Swarm Overmind, which is what we came here for. Alright, so I ran 4 of these sites on the test server, and each time I got a cruiser spawn. However, there is the possibility that you may get a battle cruiser or a battleship spawn. I mention that because this site is actually recycled from a previous event in which battle cruisers and battleships could spawn. If those ships can and do spawn, battle cruiser shouldn't be a problem at all. It'll just take you longer to break his tank than it would for the cruiser. Unfortunately, you probably won't be able to break the tank of the battleship. He won't have tackle, so by all means give it a shot. Try loading a short range, higher damage ammo, see if that works. Barring that, you're probably going to need a friend or a cruiser. Regardless, once the Swarm Overmind has been killed, loot his wreck for your reward. Notable drops include Glacial Drift skins, agency drugs, drone parts, and Cerebral Accelerators. Oh, and the agency boosters got a facelift with new icons and new names, so just check out the description to find out what's what. As you can see, the drops on the test server have been quite generous. I do believe that is due to testing purposes, and it's not actually representative of the drop rates that you'll encounter in-game. Anyway, the big prize for running these sites are the Cerebral Accelerators, which boost all of your attributes by 12 points, which of course decreases your skill training time. They normally last for 24 hours. However, biology will increase their duration by 20% per level. At rank 5, it doubles their duration to 48 hours. I highly recommend training biology to 5 as soon as possible. It affects the duration of all drugs, and it just makes your life a lot easier. You only have to collect half as many Cerebral Accelerators. Anyway, if you're looking at going Omega for a month or doing multiple character trading, I highly recommend doing it during this event. That way you can take advantage of the Cerebral Accelerators and get more skill points out of your month of training. And because none of my videos would be complete without at least one PowerPoint slide, here's some math on those Cerebral Accelerators. Assuming the accelerators function for 30 days and that you keep your character boosted for that entire time, you'll get approximately 777,000 skill points, which equals almost 2 large skill injectors. So the value of those skill points are about 1.5 billion ISK. Of course, with skill injectors, you get the instant gratification versus the Cerebral Accelerators, which you get those skill points over time. But still, they represent a tremendous value. Finally, some safety and etiquette tips. Don't fight the ninja looters. If they go flashy yellow from looting your wreck, just let them be. Odds are they'll be PvP fit, and since they'll have range control and you won't, they'll wipe the floor with you. So just move on to the next site. Furthermore, don't compete for sites against blues and of course greens. It's just bad form. As for neutrals, whether you want to compete for sites against them, that's up to you. Also, I couldn't find any information concerning the end date of the event or the expiration of the Cerebral Accelerators. If history is any indicator, however, the event will run for approximately 2 weeks and the accelerators should function for about a month. Finally, everything on the test server is subject to change. Fly smart, and I'll see you next time.